This
This is
is
Spiritual
Spiritual
Yada
Yada with iLan Azoulai.
and Penelope Jean Hayes.
Hello, welcome to Spiritual Yada. I'm iLan Azoulai.
And I'm Penelope Jean Hayes. And this is where we yada about everyday experiences through a spiritual lens.
Yes, remember Yada Yada, the second Yada is what counts. But yeah, thank you. How are you, Penelope?
I'm good. Another beautiful day. How are you?
Sunny day in Florida, sunny day in
It
La
is
La
a
Land,
beautiful day. Yes.
sunny day in California in La La Land.
Good.
Yeah. And we are here for you who are just joining us, and some of you will be joining us for the first time. I heard that. This is where we talk about everything through a spiritual lens, like Penelope initially said. And today we're excited to have a wonderful guest. I've been trying to get her to come in other times, and Penelope was able to recruit Sharry Edwards. Sharry Edwards is a bioacoustic person, and she's a researcher. I'm pretty much sure that that's what she'll say, because her thing is, we collect the data. If you heal, it is your problem. That's what she says.
I like that.
Yeah, right. And she is dealing with sound. She works with sound. I'm not going to reveal her story. I will wait until she gets here, and she's going to be here in a few minutes, and she'll reveal her story. But it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating how everything, we talked about many times how when we come to this plane, to this earth, we come to a complete harmony, to a complete harmonious ball, right? And that includes, especially, what differentiates us between us and animals is our voice, is our ability to speak, is our ability to create. Abracadabra, we create what we speak, like the words that we're using, the frequencies. It's really exciting, and it's people will call it cutting edge now, but it's been before the edge was edged. It was here always. So we are really blessed to have Sharry Edwards. She's she's from the Sound Health Institute in Ohio. So so
Yes, as they say,
yeah,
nothing new under the sun. However, this is an
exactly.
opportunity to return to a lot of those wisdoms that we haven't tapped into for a long time. So
Yeah.
this is it, 2021, the new age, the age of Aquarius, and an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for us to really expand our consciousness.
That is correct. Yeah, 'cause, you know, it is not. Here's the thing: it is not that these things that all the modalities, let's call it this way, whether it is sound, whether it is chanting, whether it is plants, whether it is meditation, that were not here. It is the access that we were not given. It's the access to these tools. They always were here. So and growing up in different. Different environments. With we'll not talk about that. It's where I come from, maybe your experience. So
And
we're
I would
going to,
say that,
yeah,
we're all born with these innate abilities. We all have so many
yeah,
talents and more senses than our five senses. And we're born with
oh
that.
yeah,
And we have to tap back into that, trust in it, and also practice it like building a muscle. And then you have people like Sherry, people that do have a unique talent, and she's going to tell us all
she's talking
about
about
that.
her
And
talent, yeah.
not, not everybody necessarily are born with that talent, but she does teach other people. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, this is wonderful. So how is your experience this week, Penelope?
This week has been fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I was talking to someone the other day and they asked me at the top of our Zoom, how are you doing? And I said, great. And they said, oh, really great? Like, is this really a time for great? Seems like a lot of issues in the world. Like, is it really great? And I said, yeah, actually it is. Like, I understand the difficulties that we've all been experiencing, and still I choose to see the upside of everything. So my experience has been, knock on wood, thank God everyone that I know is healthy. I know a lot of families are experiencing very difficult times with
Yeah.
health.
Yes.
My experience has been, it's been a good last year. 2020 was a time of a lot of evolution and growth, and the time to actually sit back, take a breath, and dive into a lot of things that maybe we usually don't have time for, and to pivot into new areas. So I think it is a great time.
It is. Yeah, and it is our perception, right? How do we choose to look at something? So,
Yes.
the person who asked you that, I would assume, based on their question, based on their surprise, is that maybe they did not experience things in a positive way, or something happened to them that skewed them out of their center. But it is really about how we look at everything. It is really
Yes.
a
And
perception and
perception
reference.
and
Yeah.
perspective, what's going on in your life right now. And it's okay. We all have those periods. Like, I already paid my dues. I had many years that were total, what.
Yeah, I hear you. I
And
hear you.
this is just not that time. It's a different time. So for me, it has been a good time. We hope that that continues, and we continue to create and share ourselves and our talents with others.
I hear you. Yeah, totally, totally. It is. It is. There've been. There are always downs towards the up, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
There's always, we go up and then there is
the
a little
upside of
dip.
the hill, the downside of the hill.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. There is the.
And
Um,
so, what about you? Overall, what's been happening with you this week?
well, it's been busy. I'm working on a new project with my mentor and with my musical
Good.
mentor, I should say,
Yes.
and it's just been really busy. It's been good reflection, that's for sure. There's a lot of time to go inside and to see what works, what doesn't work. Well, when I say what works and what doesn't work, it especially starts with me, because I tend to always go back and make sure that if I that I'm acting or saying things that are in line with what I where I want to be. So it's a
Hmm.
constant. It's not, and it happens on the fly. It's not something that I'm saying. Okay, now I'm going to sit and I'm going to think about how this went and this went and this went. It's happening all on the fly, and sometimes things are happening for me at the same time. So like spring, summer, autumn, winter, night, it's like all happening at the same time. So the thought process is happening as as we speak
Wow.
now. So this is how usually it's been. It's just that in recent years, in the last decade, I've been able to pay attention to that and give it a language, bring it to my consciousness, right? So
Yes.
that
To be in a state of
that
mindfulness, I think, is what I'm hearing,
exactly,
that you're in this
exactly,
ever present state
exactly.
of touching base with mindfulness as a habit. And I think that's
Yeah.
such a great habit to develop, because a lot of us think every now and again about being mindful, but to make mindfulness a lifestyle.
Yeah,
Stuff.
definitely. Although I have to say, it's like when I write a song, it's not thinking about that. It's just happening. So
Yeah.
it's like Sherry would say, she
In
has
the
her
flow.
talent. Like somebody has a talent, they just do that. It's for other people to analyze. They just do that. So, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful because it wasn't with me that way for many years. For many years, it was like. How do you say? I was I was based on the emotions. Something would move me from here to there, from there to
Yeah.
here.
Reactive.
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 Thank you for a second. It went away.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Oh, thank you.
I'll
What would
fill
I
in the
do
blanks.
without? What would I do without you? So yeah, it's been a reactive, and in the last decade, it's the process of, first of all, to recognize where I was, and then to choose to be a to respond rather to react, um, has been coming up and up and up and just been more on the surface. So it is a muscle. Eventually, it is a muscle,
Yeah.
and then I could discern between the things. So And I'm really blessed, the whole thing with the sound, working with sound, and that actually, we usually come with words that we talk about and we yada yada about, and sound was the best word concept that I could think of in light of today's guest, and it's a miracle. It is a miracle, totally, to create something, to say something, and to see it happening. And it is really being in that place, feeling that feeling as if that already existed, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Well,
As
you
if this
live
already
sound
existed,
day in and day out. Everything you do is derived from
for the most
sound
part. Yeah.
therapy, sound for entertainment and enjoyment. So you're
Yeah.
really fully immersed in the sound world.
I guess, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. It's been like that. Although I say for the most part, but it is actually like that. Whatever it is, it's sound and visual, and
Hmm.
and
Yes, you're
the
very visual.
touch and I'm a very touchy
You've got
person.
all the senses.
I get all the senses.
I think you have 8 or 9.
I don't, I don't know. It depends which one you're asking, which one of the 13th personalities inside you're asking. So if it depends who you're asking, so they'll come with a different set of
Okay,
tools.
today it'll be sound. Well, it happens to be my word too, of course.
Yeah,
Of course, sound is also my word of the day.
yeah. It's just um, it's wonderful because we're talking about the sound. We're talking about sound, how we can create something. But sound also restores, and that's what we'll talk with Sharry. Sound restores, and
Isn't it just amazing?
that's the bioacoustics. It brings the knowledge, the noetic sense that the body and soul and mind, everything can heal itself. It brings the body and the soul brings itself to heal itself just by frequencies,
Well, it makes me
and
think of, and you're the expert. You and Sherry are the experts on this. So, from a layman's perspective, it brings to mind the idea of a tuning fork and tuning
Mhm.
a guitar,
Yeah,
tuning an instrument, so that the sound that you are creating that goes out is now having that instrument synchronize with it. So now it becomes in harmony. So if we're talking about the body and health, sending out the healthy vibration, the sound vibration of health, now would tune the body and the cells and the DNA to let's vibrate with health. Am I on the right
exactly.
track with that?
Yes, for sure. When I work with Tibetan bowls, what do I do? First of all, clean toxins, release toxins, and then
Hmm.
based on what the person needs, I will apply the frequencies that are needed, and the body will respond. So, for example, if I use a
Okay.
Tibetan bowl, if I use a bowl and the frequency will travel through the body.
So
If the
that, yeah,
frequency,
okay.
yeah, if the
So it's like a
sound,
diagnostics process, because when you
exactly,
said what the body needs, my first thought was, how do you know what the body needs? But then I
yes,
think what you're saying is when you send out the frequency, there is a response.
that's
Just
right,
like,
that's
like
right,
if you
that's right.
tapped your knee and your leg kicks up, this is a body response. Or people talk about the muscle,
Yes,
testing muscle and things like
yes.
that. So the body has a response to
Yes.
what's right and what's wrong for the body. Is that how it
Or what is
works?
missing, what is
What is
lacking, or what is
missing?
missing. For example, if a sound doesn't travel through a certain part of the body, then there is a blockage. I call it like it's like a clogged intersection,
Uh-huh.
right?
We
It's like
call that subluxation in chiropractics.
okay, there you go. So
Yeah.
we speak the same language just in different letters.
Cool. So,
So
like
yes,
an energy block, a subluxation of
exactly,
energy.
exactly, an energy block. And speaking of energies, Sharry is with us, so I'm going to bring Sharry in.
Yay. We don't, there you are.
Oh,
Hello, darling.
Hi, gorgeous
so
hair. I love that. You can see I can't get mine to grow.
Oh, well, we love that
what are you
bookshelf
talking
behind
about?
you. Beautiful.
This is our lab, and we have been bombarded with people who are knocking us down, and our lab has all separate um, internet and stuff. So we started doing it in here so nobody could interfere.
Well,
That's
thank you,
important. Yeah, so Sharry, this is iLan Azoulai, and I'm Penelope Jean Hayes.
Penelope.
We know a lot about you, so we're very happy to have you here. We've just actually recorded a little introduction, so if it's all right with you, we're going to jump right in, and iLan will introduce you to our audience.
Okay, and to let you know, this is an old school. It was built in 1921. I graduated from here in 65.
Wow.
And so this is the old study hall with part of the library in
I
the
can
back.
see those
Wow.
little latches. How wonderful.
Wow.
I
If you,
love that.
yeah, just the construction of the build of of the library. This is wonderful.
I feel very comfortable here.
Yeah, the energy's just right, isn't it?
Wow.
Love
Well,
it.
so thank you very much, everybody who is joining us. Sharry Edwards is here. Sharry Edwards is a pioneer of the human bioacoustics with a master's in education. And as I believe you would say, Sharry, you are a researcher. You collect data. And
Yes, but I love the education part of it too. Sharing the data is my thing.
yeah, and I've heard your I've been to your class. I took the bioacoustic technician class not long ago, and what turned me on really is a webcast that you've done back in August. That you've done a public webcast, and you were talking about the healing that is in sound. And as somebody who is in sound all my life for different reasons, whether in music and Tibetan bowls and sound healing, it's been a marvel really to listen to your introduction into your work and how sound and how the body actually is healing through our sound. And so what you said, what I really liked, because of different reasons, and maybe you can touch on it or not, but you collect the data and you are sharing the data, and if somebody heals, it's their problem. And I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it.
Well, can I tell you a story?
Please
We'd
do.
Real
love
quick
that.
story. We are in this really old school building, and there was one room in the school building that I felt really pleasant and comfortable in. And I'd like to stand in that one spot, and I couldn't figure it out. And my son came, and he graduated from here also. He's like in his near 50 now. But he said, Mom, why do you want to stand in that one spot? I said, just feels wonderful to me as energy. He said, that's where my desk was for 2 years when I was in that
Oh,
classroom.
Wow. Wow.
Years ago,
unbelievable.
This is
energy,
That is phenomenal.
so
this
basically,
idea of energy and getting in touch with it and allowing ourselves to be in touch with that, I think will bring us back to our core, to our beginning, to
that's
our
right.
safety.
Speaking of the
Yeah.
beginning, I know that iLan knows a lot about your story, but I would love to hear it firsthand from
Yes.
you to kind of set this up for our audience, your backstory, your personal story, and how you got into this. Would you share that with us?
Well, there's kind of two stories to go with it. Do you want the extraordinary one or the ordinary one?
The
The
extraordinary
extraordinary one.
Sharry.
Okay. Well, when I was 6 and I had a cousin, we were out walking in the woods. We lived on this old farm in the Appalachia, and that was our plaything to go play in the woods with the trees and whatever. And we're on top of this hill. We came up on this big round cylinder, silver, looked like a piece of metal. And it had this picture dancing on the side of it. I now know that to be a hologram. So I grabbed her hand and we started toward it. I don't remember anything else until we were trying to walk home, and we'd take a step down, trying to get down this hill, and we'd bong up over the trees. I mean, literally, we're up there. And I was saying, well, wonder what's going to happen if this quits while we're up here. We couldn't walk. I think at that point, there was a big shift in me about hearing sounds, and my ears are mutated, and about knowing things about sound and a little bit about how sound and music was affecting people. We had no TV, no running water, no electricity. I didn't have anything outside. I only had this experience. And so as I was growing up, I could hear sounds from people, like from the side of their face, their ear was making a sound.
Oh.
I didn't know what it was, but it was scaring my family. They were typical Appalachian, back in the hills kind of thing. And they thought this was some kind of witchcraft or something, that I knew things, or I would say, well, Aunt Georgie said, and she would pipe up and say, I didn't say it, I thought it, you little witch.
Oh,
And
wow.
it really pushed me inside myself. So I didn't talk to people. I didn't tell anybody anything until I read Ruth Montgomery's book, Strangers Among Us. And because my shoe size kept changing and my allergies changed, I thought, there's a walk-in that's happening here. And so I wrote to her real simple, to her publisher, not to her, and said, is it possible when a walk-in happens, the other guy doesn't vacate? And she wrote back within a few days and just blew my mind. And I had these thoughts of little green men, do, 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 kind of thing. She said, Sharry Edwards, when she was 6 years old, now I was actually 5, when she and her friend found the cigar-shaped cylinder in the woods, we'd never called it that, she agreed to share her life on a planet to help heal through frequency and sound. Now, totally didn't know Ruth Montgomery at the time, but she confirmed what was happening. So there's things that happen to me, things I hear, things I feel that I cannot explain, but I've tried to use them to help other people explain what's happening to their energy field, their being. So that's the
Wow.
extraordinary one.
Wow.
Sharry, what is a walk-in?
A walk-in, when a person is so depressed and dealing with so much, they can't stand it. So their physical body doesn't die. They just walk out and another entity takes place.
You know,
Ruth Montgomery was a reporter during the Eisenhower regime, and she decided she was going to debunk parapsychology. Well, she ended up having this guy Fletcher write through her, and her books are about what's on the other side and how we deal with it.
You know, this when you're talking about walk-ins, it reminds me of an experience that I had, and what I read with Michael Newton in Michael Newton book, Michael Newton, one of his books, where when we choose to come here, there is a possibility where we can actually test out a certain experience of an existing experience. And this takes me, when you said that, it took me right back in, because this is the same term that was used and the same term that I remember from testing out a different experience of a future, supposedly a future experience. But I believe, and I also know that everything what will be already happened, so it is already here. So so testing a different experience that supposedly is not here yet on a linear term, is here on a vertical term, on a vertical perspective. And so
we have different bodies, but we have the same energy being. Well, that's my belief.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And so
I'd
now,
also
yeah,
go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
We're
Go
so
ahead.
excited to talk to you, Sharry.
It's just really exciting. It's really exciting. Go ahead, Penelope.
I was going to ask also the story about your daughter and healing your daughter.
Well, I had begun to teach parapsychology at the university here, and I didn't mean to. Just a science teacher was teaching a course, and he could talk about it, but I could do it. And so I ended up teaching that all 10 weeks of that course and for a couple of years afterwards. And I was teaching the nurses laying on of hands healing work, Dolores Krieger's kind of Reiki kind of work. And we were out, my daughter and I and son was out in this old swimming hole. And there was this Tarzan swing way up on this cliff about 12 feet high. And she swang out on this, she's heavy, and she fell on her knees in about 12 inch, not very much water. And when I got to her, her lower leg was hanging off to one side. And I
By
thought,
main artery kind of thing.
yes, it was twisted.
Mm.
The foot was almost twisted around. And I grabbed a red t-shirt off my son and wrapped it really tight around that. We were many miles from help, and I knew I was gonna watch my daughter bleed to death. She was gonna die, and there was nothing I could do. We were too far away. But I sent for help anyway. This was before cell phones.
Mm.
And I knelt down between her and a leg. I didn't want her to see it. She was very accident prone. And we just talked about how accident prone she was and just kind of having a conversation. Well, the people came, the ambulance got there, and they took off this red shirt, and you could see the bubbly fat tissue. You could see the blood vessels snapped into. They put a clear cast on her. I thought it was funny because it was blow up and there was a fly, which was funny, but the whole situation was very frightening. So they took her in this bed thing across the river. They couldn't get through any other way. They waded across this river up their neck and took her to the hospital. So she's in an ambulance and I'm behind her, and I'm still doing these sounds that I do for people. And I finally get to the hospital, and they have her in the back, and the nurses out front knew me because we've been teaching this laying on of hands healing. And they said, okay, Sharry, you can let go of it now. You don't need to do your sounds. I slid down the wall, and my daughter started screaming in the back. She had busted the vessels. She had broken the skin. And there was a big pocket where she had ripped off the muscle.
Mm.
It took her many days, and I think 60 some days in the hospital, 3 operations, but nobody knows why she didn't die. I'm there beside her doing these sounds that I was hearing from the universe, this tuned in thing that is, I'm a mutant, I guess. And I decided at that point, if I can put this into some kind of system that we could teach people or have some kind of little device that could control people's blood flow, control their energy, then I want to commit my life to that. So that's what I've done. She's a teacher now in Michigan, doing well. But nobody knows how the sounds saved her life. And I want to know how and why. And so we've been in business 30 years of trying to find out how music and sound affects people's brain. Your brain is a central processing unit full of frequencies. Where did the frequency come from? Where does the thought come from for me to crook my finger? We don't know yet. Even with all our modern medicine, we don't know. But we're trying to find out, and it's math. We're not medical, we're not musical, we're mathical. We look at your voice, frequencies from your body, or from your ear, frequencies out of your ear are called otoacoustic emissions. And I think that's what keeps people stable. Music interferes with that pattern out of your ear and soothes you or makes you upset, and events make you upset. But taking us back to balance of our body's energy, like Penelope teaches, that's where I'm looking for the scientific answer so that it can be accepted by all people, not just spiritually awakened people.
This is this is wow. This is amazing.
Mhm.
You know, you're talking about your daughter. You said that she is accident prone. Am I using the right word that you used? So that means that she is inhabiting certain frequencies or inhabited certain frequencies around her, certain energies around her. Now, in Aramaic, and this is the name of my other program is called Abracadabra, create what you speak. Abracadabra is in Aramaic, and it literally means I create as I speak. And so, is that, do you think that that has to do anything with your perception on, I don't know her, but just based on your description of where she is it something that she's creating? Is it something that she by herself can recreate? Because the speech is the part of the divine. That's really a difference that is keeping us different between the animal plane to our plane. So do you think that is her own creation, and did you do anything about that, or?
Yes and yes.
Mhm.
I think I'll have to tell you a story on her. Her husband is Filipino. And in olden times, they used to match people get married by their energy frequency. So they got pregnant, and the baby was having seizures inside the womb. And so we took Rana's birthday and the husband's birthday, mathematically put it together, and it ended up being a gene for seizures. We are mathematically
Wow.
based. And in her case, we take her vocal print, like we do with anybody who wants
Yeah.
this, and we look at her nutrition, what she needs, what's going on, and we try to change the environment or change her habits to be the best self she can be. And that's why we have all of these free vocal prints for people about bio diet and PTSD and coronavirus and whatever is going on. We can tell you what you need to balance your body because your voice is a holographic representation of all that you are. And there's
This
a
is
guy,
so fascinating.
It's
Go ahead.
fascinating. It's
there's a
fascinating.
guy by the name of James Gates, and he's from Brown University. He's a theoretical physicist. He is into supersymmetry. And he and his students did an experiment with plants, and they found in a plant DNA that there are computer correction codes, binary correction codes that are used to help humans get along and heal
Hmm.
and correct even computers. If what he is saying is true, and we have the information to be able to change your body by a frequency to get rid of macular degeneration or whatever, that speaks to us that we are mathematically based robots of some kind. And I believe we found the way to correct the robot through voice telling us what to do and giving you back a frequency that I was given the formula for, and I wrote it on the bathroom wall because it was in the shower, and that's where I get all my creative ideas.
Me too.
That's me too.
Yes.
So Avon soap, I write down all these
I
formulas
have the pen and paper. Yes.
and
The
I go check
vision.
them out, and it was right. I believe this is the year when, if we accept as human beings that we can be managed by math and by our thoughts, our creator will show up.
This is so fascinating,
Fascinating.
Sharry. And for anyone who's just joining us, we are here with Sharry Edwards, who is the pioneer of human bioacoustics.
Acoustics. Mhm.
And you can reach her at soundhealthoptions.com. Sharry, I'd like to go back to, it's so fascinating to me with the research that I do. And when you're talking about the ear and the inner ear, we tend to think of the ears for hearing, not for sending out,
Mhm.
transmitting a vibration. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that? Because it seems like the root of an understanding. For us to proceed with understanding the rest, we have to kind of get that the ear is more than we think it is.
Same thing with the
Well,
eye. Yeah.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, same thing with the eye. The eye is not only receiving, it's also sending.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. I worked in the speech and hearing department for years. I think I was trying to prove that I was sane because I was hearing all these sounds. And they said, Sharry, your ear doesn't make a sound. Could you just not talk about that? And so I found an article by James Brown, Brown with the E on the end, and it was called Otoacoustic Emissions. And it was the research they were doing with guinea pigs, and they were finding out there was a sound coming out of the ear. And you could tell if the guinea pig had a disease or something by the sound. So I think that's what we're doing. We have this dual thing, sound out, sound out, sound in. But as we were researching this, I got this idea. Think of your ear as this big megaphone, and here are all these sounds from your brain coming out. It's not from the ear canal, and they've tried to say it is, but there's much more in there than the ear canal could contain. So here's this megaphone of sound waves coming out. Here is sound from your voice coming in. And I think the idea, when those two meet, that's how we get the idea of meaning and what people are really saying. And I think people know when people are not telling the truth.
Oh, I believe it too. It's telepathic communication.
is.
And I think that we all have these abilities, these latent abilities. And as we practice them more and allow them to be and to be clear of toxins, we will practice that more and more telepathic communication. But I've said this forever, that I don't think that there's such a thing as a lie. You know, that lies will actually become obsolete very soon because we're starting to wake up to our abilities. And I have to say, Sharry, since you joined us on this call, my ears have been pulsating. And I have never experienced this before. Like, I actually feel pulsating in a pleasant way in both of my ears the entire time you've been with us.
It's been warm.
When you listen to that and really move inside it, you can astral project, you can go into other dimensions. It's the way of our body making us perfect. It's a perfect sound for you at any moment. Nobody ever needs what I'm offering if they can listen to that sound. And we have an article. If you can moan, you can tone.
Yeah.
And it teaches people to turn in to that sound. It's the perfect vibration for you at every moment.
This is amazing.
But we have a computer program. Things are hidden from people, even from themselves. So we have a computer program available on our site, soundhealthportal.com, and they can talk to this program, blah, blah, blah. I want to rob a bank, and I want to shoot people, and blah, blah. It doesn't keep your, it doesn't keep your words, but it'll show you how balanced or unbalanced that idea is. I want to have an affair or whatever it is. It will show you what's going on with you, that you need that balance.
Meaning, sorry?
Intention, consciousness, and intention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether you mean it, whether you're truly there or not, or how you feel, how you go about it. Yeah. Wow.
Well, like music, it's the balance of all the different sounds. Like you can hear a sour note, right? Sour notes just kind of drive my spine crazy in a song or somebody singing. There are those sour notes in people's voices, and that's how we can interpret what they really mean. And we have all kinds of graphs and flyers and stuff that we give away to people in our class that will teach them to do this. It's up there 24/7. They can take it anytime they want, but be prepared. Do you really want to know who's telling the truth? Do you really want to know what you think about what is going on, this job or that job or the spouse? Or do you really want to know what's truth in the world?
Yeah. So yeah, be careful what you wish for. So when I work with people on sound and apply different and we'll talk also binaural beats, where it's creating what I found is that binaural beats is creating a third, the brain is creating a third, the interval between the frequencies. When somebody is feeling dissonance to a certain frequency, and I have people at some frequencies they just cannot handle. And it's not a very loud frequency. It's not a loud frequency. It is not a, it'll push it on them. It's just a certain frequency. Does that mean that, and people will throughout the day are experiencing that, does that mean that just this frequency doesn't sit with the body, or there is something that the body is blocking from allowing that frequency to go through?
Could be blocking, could be a person you're trying to block that had that energy pattern. Could be that you have too much of it. Like the note of G is, that's turquoise by color, but it's people who have a blood sugar issue. They love G, they need their blood sugar fixed. They have too much G. They probably know somebody that had that note that they really didn't like. And it's akin to astrology too.
Hmm.
G is, I can't remember what astrology that goes to. I could look right here.
To which,
Um,
what is going
Makes
to?
me think of the Big Dipper.
Oh, in
what do I
astrology.
think of the Big Dipper?
Well, it just the shape makes me think of it.
Oh,
The
yes.
G.
Well, we're looking at turquoise November. People who are born in November,
So
and they like the note of G. They usually
Sagittarius.
have blood sugar problems. And for people who crave food, but they don't know what they're craving for, that's usually magnesium, and that's a note of G.
Hmm.
So there's a lot that goes along with your personality, what color you wear, what kind of house you're in, the rooms you're in. Rooms have shape and sound. You have a favorite room, it probably is a sound that your body needs. Tell you a quick story. My husband's father was a note of D, Gemini, and he died. And my husband always had a lot of D. And when his father died, he lost his note of G. No outward sign, but he had no G in his voice. And I hated him. We'd been married like 35 years at that point, and I couldn't stand to be in the same room with him. I couldn't stand him to say good morning to me. He didn't have any of the D that I needed. But we brought in one of our grandchildren that was a primary note of D, and we all got along. So we
Wow.
carry around this signature sound with us that ancient wisdom tells us has always been with us. And that's why we like certain musics or certain colors. We run our life by this need to balance
Hmm.
the frequencies and harmonies of our life, even
The-
events.
wow. This is, and we are now in a period of A sharp, right?
We're at the end, we're in A right now until the end of January.
And then violet. We're going to violet.
We're going from
So
Capricorn, which is a note of A sharp, which is Aquarius, and violet. That's what
yeah.
I'm wearing today.
Just so
Look at
happens.
just oops. You know, Sherry, I work with people on self development, on development, and really reclaiming our power. And I work a lot with women. Now, here you are speaking about the way that you were that you were raised, and where you grew up in a place where shunning you down, not just maybe as somebody who is a gifted, but maybe also because you are gifted and you are a woman.
Could be.
Did that play out a lot in your life throughout your experiences?
It has, and we have, um, your camera totally disappeared here to me. We have been working on sounds that deal with Viagra, and the only one we found so far is the one that works on women, and it deals with their hormones.
Sign me up. No, I'm just kidding.
You can be one of our guinea pigs. Haven't found the male one yet, but we're still working on it. But we can put women in the mood and control their hormones just with frequencies.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah,
So the Mayans had it right with the mathematics, it sounds like. They were
Yes.
yeah.
very advanced with that. So when you were talking just a moment ago about the sound and health, and when when there is the absence of a certain sound, it affects us so much. We're all starting to wake up to the mind, body, spirit connections. And I think a lot of people are really understanding that there is this connection, but not knowing exactly what the spirit part really means. So I'm going to give just a little quick example, and maybe there's something there you can speak to. A story from my own life. My father, when he was 18 years old, his father passed away. And prior to him passing away, he had spoken to my dad for years about, he knew he was dying of cancer. When I pass away, son, you have to take care of this family. He was the oldest of 12. So he had a lot of pressure on him. And when his father died, my father instantly got asthma, chronic asthma, extreme asthma, to the point that he spent 2 years in the hospital, died, had a near death experience, came back. But it's fascinating to both he and I, the mind, body, spirit connection. What would you say about this? And is there a sound connection in there too, not just the loss, the death, and the pressure, the stress that we would think of? What else is going on?
Any Leo energy in your family?
I think my sister is Leo. Is that
Leo
um
and Aquarius and A sharp deal with asthma. And
okay, I'm writing this down.
Wow.
he may wanted to refuse that position the father put him in of taking care of everybody, so he made himself sick. And I see that a lot when people can make themselves sick with
It's an
allergies.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Wow.
identified the frequencies, we can give it back to them, and then they can make the choice whether they want to keep the change or not. Humans are great at change. I love it. That's what's going on in our country at this moment, this
Yeah.
idea of change.
It's so interesting that you say that, because throughout the COVID experience, I'll say to my husband, I've got to, streamline some of my projects. I'm involved, as we all are, in many different projects, and they're all soul work, and they're all good, and you want to do them all. But it's just a year where everything's just firing on all cylinders. There's a lot going on, and it's all good, but a lot. And I will say to my husband periodically, like, I have to have more balance in my schedule, because I don't want to get COVID to get out of my schedule, because I know this is how it works. I know that I could inadvertently, I feel very protected against COVID otherwise. I feel that, I just feel that I haven't been sick in years. I think the last time I was sick was 7 or 8 years ago. I don't get colds, I don't get sick. And I did decide at some point that that was a choice. And I kind of feel the same about COVID. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but I do think that sometimes people allow themselves to get sick because they need a break.
Yes,
Hmm.
totally agree. We've had 3 reversals of COVID, and we've taken those frequencies and we've put them in a song, and we make it free to people. It's called Leceil, Leceil.
Yeah.
It's on our site. They can download it. Now, a tone box in the room is much more potent, but it really was designed to help with the breathing. But we're not allowed to say that. We're not
Yeah.
allowed to talk about it.
Right, because it's so
It's a
alternative. If you're just
Yes.
joining us, we're with Sharry Edwards. She is the pioneer of human bioacoustics. There's 2 great websites, and they are Sound Health Options and Sound Health Portal. Is that correct, Sharry?
Yes.
with me when my father passed away. When my father passed away back last November, I had outbreaks in skin, like just different, like different kind of eczema rash kind of thing. And he was Leo, you know. Um, so it's interesting that you bring that. And since we're talking about this time, what is happening now, and I don't, Penelope and I talked that we will not talk too much about the 5G, but it is part of what is happening, and I really feel on a spiritual, on a grandeur level, that this whole thing was this whole mess of the corona and the 5G is all an infrastructure, the 5G to allow eventually to put these quote unquote vaccines inside us.
When we first examined this mathematically, and we've examined a lot of pathogens and viruses, the math was too perfect. This was man-made.
Mm.
And what it was man-made to do, we published an article in Nexus magazine last August. It was designed to disturb your iron and your critochrome. That's something that's inside your cell that gives you psychic ability, gives you the ability to find yourself on the planet like birds and whales have. But we have a database that we've developed called Gravity, and it's about the iron inside your cells. Now, 5G disturbs that, coronavirus disturbs that. We've done 4 or 5 papers on corona and what's really going on with it. We saw early on that there were so many proteins being developed in the body as mutants that we decided not to go for anti-pathogen. We were going to go for protect the body so no pathogen can invade. And so that's what we've done with these frequencies, and most of them are for the lungs and circulation.
Mm.
And we're trying to provide tools and solutions for people to become calm and hopeful. Think of everything that you do as an electrical charge. And we want to go back to perfection. And I had a friend this happened to. She was in this state of bliss and she just died on the spot. Nothing wrong with her.
Mm.
I think people spontaneously combust when they get to that zero perfection. With electricity, you put positive and negative together and it zaps, like go off in another dimension. I think if you want to ride horses, that's a frequency. If you want to eat pizza, that's a frequency. And we are all here to balance toward that energy perfection. And that's why we do the things we do, and we don't understand it. And that's why we created this computer program so people can talk about any urge they have and
Yeah.
see how it's going to influence them.
This is amazing. This program. I took the technician class, and I start practicing it here, taking sample voices, and it's really fascinating just to slowly go step by step to see what are the building blocks and what are the ruining blocks, if you will.
Well,
So
it's called nano voice,
the nano voice.
N-A-N-O, meaning little voice. Anybody has access to it. They have access to our portal. They can go in, have their evaluation of their own voice done, or they can also purchase the program, have it on their own computer so they can help other people along the way and really see in the privacy of their own home what's really bothering them.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like the guy next door. What's it gonna do to my frequency, my bundle of energy?
You know,
Sharry, this info.
yeah,
Go ahead, Elon.
Um, I saw, in continuation to what we were just speaking about, and I read some articles. I did some research about the birds that, as you were saying, that it affects their navigation. It affects their whole molecular structure, if you will, and they're running into the towers, into the 5G towers,
Yes.
trying to attack that which is attacking them.
Or to navigate, and they just couldn't get around it. Think of the earth and its iron core and how we have to keep that in perfection as it moves and turns all the time, keeping the earth perfect. We have the same thing in our body in a cell. That iron inside the cell, the mitochrome, that's what we need to keep perfect to balance the body.
Yeah.
Sharry, your information is so intrepid, and I'm sure that you have the forces out there, the gremlins that would like to shut it down because, you think of the pharmaceutical industry would be, you'd be dipping into their ability to monetize what they do, and governments and many industries. What is the ultimate plan for what you're doing? How are you getting your message out to the world? We know that you have programs and websites, but what would be your vision if you could just make it any way you want to? What is the ultimate vision for this, and how can we help you spread the word?
Yeah.
Well, wonderful shows like this, and we're putting out some articles of tools and solutions for your future. And we've sent you a copy of it. It's how people are feeling stressed right now, and it's a set of things that they can do to settle themselves. I have a rule for me. I do everything I can do to help or hinder a situation. And then if it happens anyway, I try to accept with grace. And that keeps me centered. But one of the things right now that's concerning people is censorship.
Yes.
And Google and
Yes.
Twitter and these people. Well, we are their product. We are the product that Google is selling. We take ourselves out of the situation. We regain control of what's happening, and then we're in charge again. And that's what people need to know. They have the freedom of truth. And with this little nano voice, you can find the truth that we are providing to everybody. And we would like Lynn Wood and some of these other really great thinkers, we would like truth to be the beacon of the dark.
This is
Amen to
wonderful.
that.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah,
This is
because we have become a commodity. These social media networks. I hope somebody invents one that we have to pay for, because when it's free, it is their
yeah.
platform. And so they're doing whatever they want with it. But we do need a place to be able to advertise and promote these great things, a social media network. So to anyone out there listening that wants to start a
Ex-
social media network that actually
yeah.
works for the people, that is not censored, that would be a great idea. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, Sharry, the work that I do with the Viral Energy Institute, there's a couple of things that are pillars of interest for us and for the research that we're doing. And I want to see what you think about it. One is the idea that sound could be the next renewable energy source, or one of them, in terms of the replacement for crude oil. So one of these things that would be a game changer on our planet, and we so desperately need. And so we're looking into many different options, and sound is something that just keeps kind of tapping at me to, and I don't work with sound as both of you do. So I'd love your insight on that as a possibility on that large scale of a replacement as a fuel.
Well, they can now use sound to put out fires. They know that now that sound has mass.
Mhm.
They're doing great things with sound and its effect for depression and music. What was the other one that you said?
Well, just looking at
Medicine.
like a replacement for crude oil, could it power vehicles? Could it heat your home? Could it be used for interstellar travel at light speed
Well,
to
look for
fuel airplanes? So it's a no fuel. So you don't need a vessel to carry the fuel anymore. It would be a no fuel to power the world.
well, look at the
Well,
if you look at the handstone, right? And
mhm.
pyramids, we're talking about that sound actually, they were able to levitate and to move these great is that move
You know,
these
there's
great stones with sound.
there's a Japanese company that can levitate with sound now. They just need to develop that further. And I think as far as space travel, two things are keeping that. The bones deteriorate, the muscles deteriorate. We have found the frequencies for both of those. I think
Yeah.
it's really going to help that in space you can talk into a microphone and get a frequency solution to your eye problem or your heart. We actually did that with a cosmonaut. He had a irregular heart, and we gave them the sounds for an irregular heart that we found over the last 30 years. And it went back into rhythm, and he was fine once he got back to Earth.
Hmm. Wow.
So a sound machine will give you any medicine, any frequency that you need.
And one of the other
That's
things that we
amazing.
work on at the Institute is global viral contemplation. And that is the idea and the practice of meditating in large groups, basically. So it's an en masse meditation. And there was I'm partnered with Good Deeds Day International. They're out of Israel. And so once a year they do Good Deeds Day. And there's many different projects going on all over the world. Well, the project that I contribute is global viral contemplation. And with that, we also have a sound aspect. It's a meditation soundtrack that was developed by a lady in France named Erin Kahn. And she uses her voice. She makes sounds with her voice that sound like a mother whale calling to her baby whale. And all of these things are just made with her sound. And she's been studying sound for a long time. And when she records this in the studio, she has all these glasses of water that she charges with vibration ahead of time. And she's just, like yourself, one of these absolutely beautiful women that just radiate with wisdom. And I'm always just so amazed. So, what are your thoughts on the ability for sound to contribute to world peace and unity on large scale when we do these things together?
I think it's an awesome idea, but I want to share a story that may help. About
Yes.
20 years ago, we did an experiment with a person's blood on a little piece of glass. I looked into the microscope, I got the sound, I did the sound, and the cloaking on the virus as the bacteria began to break away. You could see the killer cells sitting right there in the blood, and they weren't doing anything. until I did a sound. And then the cloaking that the body's immune system built up began to break away, and the killer cells could attack and take care of the body. But the greatest thing about it is we had this blood on a little slide, and we took more blood out of the person that we'd sent to another building, and her blood was also affected in the same way from a different building.
Viral.
What,
Wow.
yes, what could we do from the moon? What frequencies could be used to make everybody healthy? And think what that would do. If everybody was healthy, what kind of world would we have? If everybody
Yes.
had to tell the truth, what kind of
world?
world would we have? More divorces. In the beginning, we would need the law system. My mother used to say,
Right.
the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable.
Wow.
So yes, I'd like to be involved. And if we could coordinate what frequencies need to be sent in what way. But this all comes
Yes.
down to us. I don't allow anybody to pray over my food. I need to pray over my food and change its energy to be compatible with mine.
With
So
intention.
yeah, we knew this all along. How many years centuries we've been praying over food. We knew it, we just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And how is it to pray over someone else? Is that okay? Like when you pray, put hands on someone else or pray over someone else, send intention for someone else? So I just want to make the distinction for our listeners and viewers.
If I do that, I start with a very tiny speck inside their core and then move out. And if they block me in any way, I quit or I'll ask their permission. We can do the same with us with this article. If you can moan, you can tone. You can start with a tiny dot and clear out all the junk, but don't say junk, be away from me. Junk, go help somebody else.
Sharry, is this the slide you were talking about?
Yes, that's the one from the Nexus article.
That's right.
Years ago, and you can see where the cloaking, which the body produced from leftover digestion, and this is from somebody who had A blood, and this is probably why A blood people get more pathogens than other people. This is great that you have that up.
Yeah. This is listen. I've taken your classes. I've been playing with this, but I've been playing with this really. It's really that kind of excitement. It gets to see what we have here because we got this ball of world in a complete harmony. I say that we are the cacophony. We created this. This really imbalance. We're talking about water. Penelope was talking about water, and I talk about this experiment that Professor Masuro Emoto from Japan, right? A Japanese professor that was doing the experiment with the water, right? The words that are being said and that created different kind of structures of the water. Some of them created when they're positively said, the water, the particles change into a beautifully geometric shapes, and the negative words created brown splats. So aside from carrying memory, there is also the aspect of the frequency that is. So it can carry memory, but it also can be changed. The memory can be changed, pretty much like us. We can come with a karmic energy, and we can change our energy based on our intention, on our words, the place that we inhabit, where we inhabit ourselves. And like you said, we can choose a partner based on the place that we inhabit within ourselves that is as a low energy or something else. And that creates a chain reaction of everything else.
Beautiful. And we are 90% water. We can also be programmed.
Wow.
I have this idea that water is alive. It's the blood of the planet. It in crystals. And when I take a shower, I ask the water to cleanse away the garbage and to allow this day to be for the benefit of all concerned.
It's interesting that you say that because one of the things that we've studied through the Institute is the idea that water conducts inspired thought. It has to do with the ions in the water. So just as electricity can be conducted through, metal and also water, thought is an energy formation that can be conducted through water. And do we ever get ideas in the shower or sitting next to a babbling brook or a pond or any, particularly water in motion? So it's very powerful stuff. And I think most people understand that. So they understand some of these metaphysical concepts in their own layman's
Yeah.
terms. And we're going to, dive right into more and more and more of that for them. Is there something we haven't asked you that you think is really important to speak about and to bring forward?
Well, I want people to know there's really nothing wrong with the frequencies in their voice. It's what they do about it that makes a difference. It's like the challenges that come to us. It's how we handle it, what we learn from it that really makes a difference. And that's why we have provided these free classes for people to learn everything that we've talked about, and we're providing them the software to do it.
That's amazing. Thank you. So, Penelope, back to what you were saying about water. I lived in Boston for 14 years. Most of the universities like BU, and they are on the conjunction of water, on the intersection of river. They're all built where they have water from each side. So it's not coincidental. It is. They're just not saying it. That's the thing. It's like many institutions, and especially government. I mean, everything with the government is not for the people. I don't believe so. But many things that are being done are not being shared with us. And what the work that Sharry is doing, and that you've been put here. I mean, there is a reason we're here. Everything is for a reason, and you're here. And we are meeting you at this particular time, at this particular moment, this particular frequency to bring this out to the world. I wanted to ask you, Sharry, about water. I believe that everything physical, everything in this physical realm has a spiritual reason and cause. Everything starts from a spiritual, it's like a car and the driver. The car is our body, the driver is our soul, and so forth. And the water, if we look at the grand of in the universe perspective, the way that water is here, the molecular structure of water is very unique only to Earth. For the most part, it's icy in space. For the most part, it's icy, and it's really the way that Earth and Sun are positioned between one another creates the perfect temperature for the water to be in its liquid form. How is that tying into sound? Or maybe the other way around, how is sound tied into that?
Well,
Is there...
water's a combination of C sharp and D together. And C sharp is justice and D is choice. So is that what's happening on our planet? I really believe that frequency is not only a new medicine, but an ancient mystery revealed. And we are going back to our roots. We forgot to remember how powerful we are by thinking.
I have all this, but my body is all electricity. I feel this all energy tingling as you're just saying. It's amazing.
I went to the dentist and they said I had a cavity, and they made an appointment for 3 weeks. I worked on that cavity, put energy in it, built it back up in my mind. And when I got back to the dentist, I had no cavity. Wow. I think we all have that power. We just need to learn to use it.
I absolutely agree. My sister was full of cancer. She had stage 4 terminal cancer. This was 2 years ago. She's young, and it was in her lymph nodes. It was in her liver. It was on her skin. And I mean, this doesn't sound crazy to the two of you, I'm sure, but to a lot of people it would. And we prayed over her. And the last time, and I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. I actually did the praying. And the next time she went to her oncologist and had all the tests, they couldn't find any cancer in her body. They had given her 2 months to live.
Wow.
It's completely gone. So there's something to that. And I mean, I don't know how to explain that to people because, I tell that to some people, even family members, extended family, and they say, which doctor made the mistake. You know, they're just so
Uh,
negative about that it must have been a mistake
they're
of
stuck in that
diagnosis.
story of
Well, that the
somebody's.
diagnosis in the first place. Meanwhile, she had
Wow.
been many appointments, many different tests. So yeah, you know, we do
Amazing.
have to trust in this and look into it more.
We are capable. We just have to find out how. And that's what
Amazing.
we are determined to do. My rose-colored wish for the world is that there's a bioacoustic center in every community to teach people these techniques.
So there it is. That's the vision.
That is it. Wow.
I love that. Well, if we
Any,
can do
yeah.
anything, obviously Elon is a sound healer himself. And if I can link to your website through the viralenergyinstitute.com website, if there's any ways that we can work in collaboration and synergy to help what you're doing, we would love to do that. And we're here for you. This is
Yeah.
absolutely
Amen.
extraordinary work. And we need the world to know about it. I mean, this is just
Exactly.
incredible.
Exactly.
I'll
And
send you a
as,
couple
yeah,
of articles that you can help us disseminate.
please,
Thank
yeah,
you.
please do send us, and we will, and we'll do everything we can, both in our worlds. I'm in California, Penelope's in Florida. We're both. It doesn't matter where it is. And do you have any of the articles translated?
Yeah, we have a few of them translated to Spanish,
Spanish.
but the computer will automatically translate now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what program you're using. If it's anything like the social media translators translations, then thank
Can
good.
you
But
bring
I'll,
me up to speed? Because I'm going to be the layperson here. What do you mean by translate? So, what is it originally in?
English,
Okay. So,
English to Spanish is what we're
okay.
mostly doing,
Okay.
because we have this very young girl, autistic, brilliant girl, that's translating things as people need it.
Okay. All right. So, that's pretty basic. So, it is in English. And Elon, you're asking if it's in other languages. Is that
well,
correct?
yes, in other languages. That's what I meant translated. Not, yeah, it was
Got you.
language
What do you
translations.
need?
Well, no, I was going to take a look at that because I want to see if anything is in Hebrew, because that would be um, my place to dive in to see if it's needed.
Maybe you can help me. I've
Yeah.
Right.
wanted to learn Hebrew for many years, but
Oh,
every time I try to read it or look at it, I just cry in such
oh.
grief.
Why do you cry?
I don't know. It's just a grief for something lost.
Wow, this is amazing. You know, the letters, as the world was created in 10 utterances, right? Sound, right? It's interesting what you read. Well, we can talk about this. I'll reach out and I'll email you. But it's interesting what you've read if you try to read, because it seems like you are already familiar with it. That's the
The,
feeling I'm getting.
the book of Enoch, which has all this Hebrew writing, it
Wow,
just puts me in a state of despair.
wow. You
And
know,
I need to
wow.
know, I need to know why.
Is it a past lifetime, Sherry, do you think?
It could be, I've
Yeah.
done some of that, but this is like for the world. There
Ah,
needs to be some answers out of those letters.
Let me ask you: do you have is your um, the factor on your blood, is it minus or plus?
A plus,
You're also A plus. I'm A plus too. Interesting. Do you have anybody in your family who is minus, like any O minus or something like that?
just my husband.
Interesting. You know, that is linked to that time of the book that you're reading, and that in the book of Enoch it talks about where uh, extraterrestrials came and mated with Earthlings, right? And the factor, the difference between the plus and the minus, it's called for something factor. It's funny that I'm drawing blank now, but it is the difference between that everything else is similar to the rhesus monkey gene. I'm not saying that we're coming from there. I'm just saying that it's similar, and it's similar in that it has a protein covering the cell, and the minus doesn't, and that is linked to an extraterrestrial blood that is research that I've read papers of scientists that are linking it to Noah's Ark, to that era, which is where Enoch is.
Please send that to me. Maybe it'll help me find some answers. Why is my ears mutated? Why is my voice unhuman?
So
Why
it's
can I do
interesting.
sounds that humans can't? Why do the sounds affect people?
Wow. Wow.
I believe there's something that finding that cylinder and becoming a part of alien genetics. And I had my genetics done. 2% of my genetics are unexplained.
Wow. Is anybody in your family that has any of the mother, father, grandfather that has a minus?
I don't know. I would have to do
Interesting.
some digging.
And usually it's not, you don't get these answers on a regular blood testing. You have to ask them for the, man, I can't
The
believe
special panel.
the factor. It's called a factor. It's something factor of the blood. When you do a blood test, it just tell you if you're A plus, O minus,
Is
B.
it the pH factor?
pH factor. Thank you very much.
I'm in my 70s, so most of my parents and grandparents are already gone. So it'd be hard to get a blood
But maybe
test.
you have any medical work that was done on them. It is written somewhere what kind of blood type they had, what blood type they had.
I will go looking.
Wow, interesting. So we'll be in touch, definitely. Wow.
So you're still questioning your own, origin.
Yes.
Can you
Very
go
much so.
inside to your higher self through meditation or just peacefully thinking about it? Like, what would be, if you knew the answer, what would it be? What do you think?
Well, I've done some stuff with this already, and it explains things to me or for me. Like I had this unexplained hatred of Hitler. I couldn't even study about him. I couldn't read about him. And so I went into this past life and was a young Jewish girl that was abused by these officers. And then I recognized why I have this need to help others who are in pain or who are being abused or betrayed. And I also recognized the officer. And so I went to his higher self and said, why, how could you abuse a very young girl like that? He said, don't you remember you couldn't stand to be the abuser, and we need to teach the world a lesson. So I took that role so you didn't have to. That explains so much to me.
It's our roles, the roles that we are coming into play. It's not by accident I said that this world is a stage and we are actors.
Yes.
So you made peace between your soul and his soul. That, do you think it was a agreement prior to coming into that lifetime that it was a lesson for both or part of your journey, your soul's development?
For the world. And I think that's my fascination with Hebrew. I think that's where that comes from.
And you two are connecting for some reason here
There is a reason. There is a reason we're connecting now, because I've reached out to Sharry and to the office, and it's just been a while.
Did you know that, Sharry? Ilan's reached out to you before, but today it happened. So there is a reason for that.
So I tried to reach you. I reached out to get you on my program, on my other Abracadabra program, and I couldn't. So I decided, so it was fascinating to me anyway. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take the class anyway. So let me take the class. So I took the class, and then I reached out with an email, and then I got questions, and then Penelope is interviewed on the radio with Mr. O. And so
Richard interviewed me on Sound Health, and so here we are today.
So here we are.
I think there is a reason, though.
Everything, spiritual reason.
This is what has happened to our office. There have been people who want this, and they filed patents on it. Google filed patents on this. These people have come in and tried to rape and rip off, and they have paid employees to depress anything that we do, whether it's to be on a show. And we've had to get rid of a lot of people who were being paid to keep this information down. I think all of this also comes through the Templars, if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Sylvia Frank wrote a book about Tree of Life and the Holy Grail. And she says in that book, Sharry Edwards is a modern keeper of the Holy Grail information. And that explains to me why I know things that I have never learned. and bringing that back to humanity and being able to instill it into our genes. I think on some level, that's where we're going here. Even
Wow.
though we've been here for 30 years, we've never reached the bottom of why.
And you're in
Wow.
Ohio, is that correct?
That's
Yes.
exactly what I was I was thinking the same words before you just said it.
Yeah,
So
we're
you're in
syncing
Ohio.
for sure. Sherry, I'm going to make a little announcement that iLan, I think I mentioned it to you when it was a little bit earlier on. This is an unexpected announcement, but I have to share this with you. I'm co-hosting a new television show called Conspiracy Detectives. We're in production. Your story and what you do would be a perfect episode for conspiracy detectives, because a conspiracy is anything where there's a large group of people, could be a corporation, could be the government, wanting to suppress information from the general public. So it doesn't have to necessarily be the, Roswell and what happened to JFK, but a lot of things are conspiracies, and some information suppression, information that can help the world, is something that's a particular thorn in my side, that we want to get to the bottom of it. And I can share with you what some of our other topics are, but what you're doing is something that needs light on a large scale, to the point that so much light has been shone on it that there can be no dark corners and there can be no shutting you down.
Yeah.
So
I
we'll
love
talk
it.
about that. We'll talk about that later.
That's why this little nano voice is a bringer of the truth from inside you and from the people outside trying to influence you and manage you.
Yeah. Wow.
We'd
Amazing.
like everybody to have that program.
Amazing.
Yes.
So the links and all the information is, as you've noticed already, the links are appearing here on the page. You can reach out. Wonderful people there. Jessica and Steve, if I remember right, people that are really there, really, really helpful.
We also have an audience on iHeartRadio and iTunes. For those who are listening to us just by audio today, as we talk about voice and audio and sound health, you can reach Sharry Edwards at soundhealthoptions.com and soundhealthportal.com.
Yes. Sharry, I want to thank you very much for your gifts and for you being here and for the love that you are sharing, because this is really an essence of love. We're talking about what love is. Ahava.
This is awesome to be here.
Ahava. Oh, ma.
It's awesome
Amen.
to have you. And,
Amen.
our usual close we're going to do, but if it's okay with you, we'd like to leave this with last words from you, Sharry. So if you have a message for the world, or a prayer for the world, or whatever that is that you would like to share, a message at the end, we would love for you to close our show. So we will, iLan, if you'll give us your usual. This is iLan Azoulai.
To give you my
We'll just do our usual.
I'm still in
this
the, I'm
is
still in the
Spiritual
whole
Yada
this
with
is
iLan
spiritual
Azoulai
yada.
and Penelope Jean Hayes. And we are here with Sharry Edwards. If you could take us out with a
Yes.
message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're speaking with me. Okay. I want to provide hope and dominion and peace for people through providing a computer program for truth, and them to find the truth, and to allow truth to be their beacon through life.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
you.
everybody, for being here. This is Spiritual Yada with iLan Azoulai
And Penelope Jean Hayes.